Please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Colleen.
Haveman,
Here.
Hughesby,
Yeah.
Kirsch,
Here.
Kissinger Wolf, Long,
Here.
Scuball,
Here.
Swinty,
Here.
Baloo,
Here.
Zimmerman.
Here. We have a quorum. Next agenda item is adoption of the agenda. So I'd entertain to motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I so move. Swinty.
Second, Blue.
Motion is second to approve the agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. District Administrator's report. Wendell?
So a couple things to report on. I just wanted to update the board on, just to give you a quick personnel update. We've been keeping up with the consent agendas, and you'll see some more names on there. We will have 12 teachers joining our district. 12 new faces, not necessarily new teachers joining our district, which is a pretty good number. We'll have one new counselor joining our district for next year, a new activities director joining our district next year. Mark Schomer, who you all met, Director of Curriculum Instruction or Teaching and Learning, will be new to our administrative team next year. And then obviously the added Dean of Students position. And also on top of that, 10 internal transfers to different positions within our district, some for growth, some lateral, but good opportunities that I think a lot of people are happy about. So that's where we are right now. We're pretty close to being fully staffed for the upcoming school year. A couple of positions out there that we have offers pending, but we should have that clarified. I'm going to be attending a employee roundtable discussion with North Central Wisconsin Workforce Development Board tomorrow afternoon. They had reached out looking for folks throughout our community to participate, really wanting to discuss and identify some of the challenges regarding our current labor market, struggles with childcare, housing, and start to pinpoint some of the things that we're all seeing as employers. So I'm looking forward to collaborating with some area folks on that as well, and hopefully we can get some good ideas on the table. Wanted to just briefly give you an update too. I didn't have Arlen stick around, but I've been talking with him as he schedules different summer maintenance and capital projects, so there's a number of things on the docket for this summer. Some of those you've seen come through in your requisition packets, but you can see we have a painting project going on. That was both interior painting for lockers. We've had some exterior painting around our entrances and cleaning those up. They did some caulking and different things to make those a little more appealing. They also painted the interior inside of the pool, which not the pool itself, but the pool room, which was much needed, had not been done in many years. We're going to have 79 windows replaced. Most of these projects are coming out of our remaining COVID dollars that we had allotted. So 79 windows are going to be replaced across the front of the building down towards the middle school over the course of this summer. We're going to replace and update all of the door controllers, so the ones that you see that are buzzing in and out when you come through. Many of them have reached their lifespan and they no longer are supported by the servers. We had a number of different entrances that we added those to. The goal behind that is to get as far away from hard key copy keys as we can, so that we can easily control what keys are active in our district. So if we don't get a key back, we don't have to worry about rekeying something. We just turn the fob off or the card off that we're missing. So we've got eight roofs across our district that are set to be replaced this summer, keeping up on that pacing to have all of them replaced in the next few years. There will be a roof HVAC unit that will be added, and then obviously summer cleaning has begun, which is a huge undertaking for our custodial crew as they move and start cleaning classrooms out. They're working around summer school right now. They will be working throughout the summer. But a number of different things. It's going to be a very busy place around here this summer as far as the projects that are slated to get completed. We still have, in addition to that, the tuck pointing project on the elementary. We don't have a date yet, but that has been also told to us that they would get to that this summer too. I wanted to just very briefly update the board. If you have not seen, the news broke on June 8th that Governor Evers and the GOP had reached an agreement on a shared revenue package, and within that were a lot of the things that schools were asking for. So just to run through, and I actually have been following this story throughout the day because this was in committee hearings today, and it passed through the Senate Education Committee 6-1, said it had bipartisan support in both, and it went through JFC 11-3. But here are the things that were passed through that. So one was a commitment to maintain 2/3 funding for our public schools. There was over $1 billion in spendable revenue with additional categorical aids possible that were included in this bill. Each fiscal year, there would be a $325 per pupil increase in revenue limits. I don't believe that's going to impact us because of the next bullet point. It raised the low revenue ceiling from $10,000 to $11,000 per student. So now that's a big one for us. Right now, we're at about $10,018, I believe. So we will be at $11,000 per student next year. But we won't get the 325 until we're at that revenue limit or above it. There will be $30 million invested to support school-based mental health with the intent of moving completely away from competitive grants, which it has been for the past number of years. So that will be a huge investment. And an additional $97 million in reimbursements given for special education. So that'll bring us up just under 2%. So it's a start to move in the right direction, but a much needed one. And then the last one is there's going to be $50 million placed towards a reading initiative, and WAS, I know, had put out a lot of bullet points and talking points. I did not include them in my report because they're extensive, but that might be something that the board would want to take a look at on the WASB website. It talks about setting up a commission. It talks about really being eliminating certain ways that things are being taught with regard to reading now and cueing and some other areas, and going completely into the science of reading aspect and how they would accomplish that. So there's a variety of things that are going through right now that would be an interesting read, I think, for anybody involved in education. So, but like I said, that did pass through committee, so it'll be moved on to the full legislature. I'll keep you posted and updated as I hear more and learn more about that.
I have a question, Wendell, on the 2/3 funding. Does that impact us or not? I mean, they can say 2/3 funding, but yet we don't benefit.
Well, the $11,000 is what's going to benefit us the most.
Okay,
Going for that low revenue ceiling is going to raise us about $1,000 per student, so that will be a
Okay.
big impact, the biggest
Okay.
impact that we would get. So, yeah.
Any other questions for Wendell? Okay. Next item is the consent agenda item. There's a number of them. Approve the minutes from the regular meeting of May 9th, 2023. Approve the minutes from the closed session of the regular meeting on Tuesday, May 9th, 2023. Approve the minutes from the Operation Finance Committee meeting on May 19th and June 6th, 2023. Approve the minutes from the Executive Committee meeting on May 30th, 2023. Approve the minutes from the closed session of the Executive Committee meeting on May 30th, 2023. Approve the invoices from May 6th to June 9th, 2023. Then there's employment contract adjustments and donations. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I so move.
Second?
Second, Swente.
Okay, a motion to second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next is the school perception survey results.
Okay, so we have joining us via Zoom, Darren Sievers. I've worked with Darren to set up the surveys that we sent to our students, to our staff, and to our families earlier this spring in April. And basically how that works is Darren is, here's a representative of school perception. So once they know what we're looking for and what we want to, the questions that and the information we're trying to glean, they take it basically from there. They administer all of the surveys, and then the results come to them. And so he has tallied those results, and he will go over them with the board this evening. So welcome, Darren.
Thank you. Good evening. Can everybody hear me? Okay?
Yes.
Yeah,
We can turn it up a little.
maybe a little.
All right. How's that?
That's good.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Well, thank you for being supportive of the Zoom. This is a very, very busy time of year for us where we could be giving a report like this to New York City in the morning, North Dakota in the afternoon, and now we're in Tomahawk. I want to start off by saying what a pleasure it was to do this project with Wendell. I do about 60 of these projects each semester, and I can't say enough about how focused and enthusiastic he was about going through this exercise to make Tomahawk better. And that's really what this whole process is all about, is trying to protect your strengths and shore up your areas for improvement. A lot of times I think we think of surveys as only focusing on what are we doing poorly, what are our weaknesses, and that's not it. You're also trying to identify what people are happy about and what areas you're known for as strengths, so that you can protect and maintain them, particularly at a time when staffing shortages are a challenge, time when families can open or move to other districts. Feedback from your staff and your parents is important, but also we have capacity now to gather feedback from your students, and that's the reason we open our doors every day. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background about our company, and then I'll give you your local results. So this was the team that worked on your project. Rob Louise is our research director. He's a former English teacher who got his PhD in research and he assists us with all the data, analytics, and things of that nature behind the scenes. I'm the guy in the red tie on the left. If anything over Slinker, Wisconsin is, down by Germantown, West Bend. I worked for the Slinker School District for 27 years as a counselor, elementary principal, high school principal in the last 10 years as superintendent. But I was offered and we were a regular customer of School Perceptions for a $43 million referendum, and I did the same surveys with my students, my staff, and our parents. I accepted a position with the company a year ago because my mother's health was failing, and I'm from Minnesota, and I needed a job that was more mobile. And so this was a great opportunity for me to stay in education, work with districts, but also be more available to her. So a little background about our company. We've been in existence now for 21 years. We've done over 10,000 surveys of this nature in all 50 states. We've also helped over 900 districts with strategic planning and, more specifically, referendum planning, updating their facilities, things of that nature. So now we're going to dive into your results. Now I want to just forewarn you, I have about 75 slides of results for you, but on each survey, the staff survey, the student survey, the parent survey, I try to summarize your results at the end so that you don't get overwhelmed by the numbers. But I'm going to show you all the results slide by slide and then summarize at the end of each survey. So with your student survey, we administered this in April. We had 371 students in grades 6 through 12 take the survey, which was about 60% of your student population. Students were not forced to take the survey. It was voluntary, and their parents were forewarned in advance so that this survey was done. Your distribution of those results were 55% were in middle school, 45% in the high school. And the next slide shows you a distribution by grade level. Our indexes, the way we ask the students to rate each question, were with the following scores. We asked a question that said, do I definitely feel that's the case? Sort of feel that's the case? 5 points, 4 points. We did not allow for a 3 score. We wanted them to say either yes or no, so to speak. And if they don't know, or if they didn't feel like the question applied to them, they could say that. But we didn't want to water down the average scores by making that a 3. We just don't give it any point values. So ideally, the median score on every question is a 3. So in a perfect world, Tomahawk would have as many scores be in the approaching 4 or above 4 range as we talk about results. The students answered roughly 30 questions, and all 30 questions fed into one of 4 areas. How they felt about connecting to their school, how they felt about their learning environment at school, their learning experience, I should say, their environment, and their interpersonal experience at school. So the first column gives you an average score for each of those indexes for Tomahawk. So the 4.11, 3.74, that column are your local scores. The comparison score is based on hundreds of other districts across the Midwest that have also administered the same survey. So we're able to compare your scores to other districts. So these summary indexes, you were at 4.11. The average score for all the other districts that are about your size, have your socioeconomic standing, and your status ratio was a 4.29. So throughout all 3 surveys, we're going to look at the data this way, comparing your score to the average score of other districts that are similar to Tomahawk. We're not going to compare you to Dallas, Texas, even though they're one of our accounts. We're not going to compare you to New York City. We want to compare you to Midwestern schools that are like that are facing similar challenges as you. So we're going to look at each question item by item. Again, we're going to talk about the scores based on a 5, 4, 2, and 1 scoring ratio. And on this slide, there's one more thing I want to point out. So the very first question for the students was, I try my best in school. The first column is the percent of students that gave a 4 or a 5. They talked about their classes and their teachers, and their experience with the classes and teachers. So throughout the survey, we're going to give a percent that gave you a 4 or 5, the scores we're looking for, an average score, and then your score compared to the comparison, which would be, there's several hundred districts that have said in that. So we're going to go through these very quickly, and then I'll summarize your top 5 areas and your 5 areas that scored the lowest. Again, I can go online or use a device in school, but I need 84% of your students gave you a 4 or 5 for an average score of 1.7, slightly below the average score of the other students. If I need help, I can talk to someone outside of class, 83%. Those are scores we want to see because you're getting north of 80% of the kids are feeling good about that question. Your average score is north of 4, and then once a perspective on how that compares to other districts, then we can look at that part right now. My teachers follow me in class. My teachers explain things in a way that I get. Again, these are going to be a descending order. Highest scores to the lowest. My teachers make their classes fun and interesting. Now this is where we start to get into the range where Wendell and his leadership team, and we can break these out by building. Something drops down in the mid 3s or the lower 3s, that may be an area that we want to look at. Or if the gap gets very wide between your local score, the average score, and the comparison average score. I can relate to what I'm doing in school. Only 61% of the students get a 5. The average dropped to a 3.31, and you're 2/10 below the average score for others. Next up, let's talk about their feelings about life in school. Teachers treat me with respect. Very nice. I like to learn new things. I feel safe in school. An area that a lot of schools are working on right now with the violence and things that are taking place in our school setting. I know my teachers care. I can be myself in school. Students treat me with respect. I feel safe answering questions, even when I know I'm not sure I have the right answer. If I were bullied, I would feel comfortable talking to someone about it. Now we're starting to get down to the range. It's a little concerning because we're only at 50% 4s and 5, average score of 3.23, and over 3/10 below the comparison score. and then most kids in school follow. So those last two are definitely areas where I think students are sending the message about the climate, their feelings about the climate amongst their peers. And then the people around me questions. This is one that kind of tugs at my former role as a counselor way back in the day. I had friends that sit at lunch or hang out in school. That social connection is having someone that you could befriend is a huge part of just feeling good about going to school every day. Very strong sport. Parents can help me with school as much as they can if I ask. I have friends who help me when I need it. All well for. I like helping other people when I can. But there's adults I can talk to about it. I like being in groups with my classmates. Talk to people outside of school about what I've learned. Give them that one, tend to drop. Then we also ask them, we'll work at projects on the side that help me learn and are more than just busy. Trying to engage those high schoolers and how they feel their work outside of school. Also, we ask the question, what things make learning hard for you? The blue bars are your high schoolers. The gold bars are your middle schoolers. High schoolers report stress, test anxiety, and distracting behaviors of other students are the top three areas that cause their problems, followed closely by not getting enough sleep, pace of life. Within the middle school, the distracting behaviors of other students is the highest scoring area. So now as you look at this through different questions, different questions and different prompts, you can start to see some trends here. The behaviors of other students seem to be amongst the biggest concerns amongst the students that you serve. Then we always ask the closing questions. Most days, do I like my school? Your average score on a scale of 0 to 10 was a 5.35. The comparison average for all the other districts, like Tomahawk, was 6.12, so he's a little below that. What was the highest scoring area, interesting, was right in the middle at 20%. Sort of not fully endorsing, but definitely not fully against their experience in school. And then finally, we're going to do this for all three surveys. You've seen lots of questions, lots of data. I tried to summarize this for Wendell and your board. Top 5 scoring areas. And again, Wendell has these PowerPoints. I'll send this master copy at the end of this presentation as well. Your top 5 areas are outlined there. Social connections, teacher connections. Areas that are of concern within the student body. Some bullying concerns, and kids following the rules. They jumped out at. Any questions or comments about the student survey or the process that we're going to outline tonight to the reports in general?
Any questions? Not at this time.
Okay, great. Next up, we'll talk about your parent feedback. 279 parents took the survey for a participation rate of 26%. The natural question I always get is, how does that compare? For a parent survey, and this is the fastest growing area of our company, the parent and the staff surveys. Many districts are trying to assess how their parents are feeling post-COVID and how their staff are feeling because they want to retain them. It's a tough labor market. We've never seen less teachers in our after schools than right now, and support staff. Our company average on a parent survey basis is 30%. So you're right, good participation rate. For comparison, I just reported to a district in Northern Minnesota last night. They only had 9% of the parents who applied to their survey. So very challenging to make a decision when only 9% of parents get back. You had a good response rate. Quite honestly, our owner, the founder of our company, he has found that anything in the 10 to 15% range can be planned around, because within that month you have multiple various opinions. You have output, which is nice to see. This was the distribution of the schools. 54% of the parents who responded have elementary students, 45 high school, 39 middle school. Again, that adds up to more than 100 because they have multiple children in multiple buildings in many cases. So you've got good representation from all three buildings. And here's your grade distribution. Largest group were your freshmen for whatever reason. Smallest group were your 4K, followed by your second grade. But nice, again, nice distribution across the grade level. And then we do ask the question, and this allows you to disaggregate. So let's say that you wanted to just disaggregate the responses from parents who receive special education. Talk about the additional reimbursement you're getting for special education when those funds report. You can click the button in our server. And Wendell has the server rights. You can just look at the responses of the students who receive special education, or the gifted and talented, or the English language learners, why you don't have a lot of them with those closing funds. In our indexes, we ask the parents and the staff to rate it on the same scale, but we use a little bit different language for the adults. Strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree. Again, taking out that natural temptation we all have to put, I'm not sure, because that doesn't tell us anything. We want them to have an opinion. The indexes for parents are being informed, feeling included in the school community, their view on the educational excellence, their view of the atmosphere of the school, and their family's overall experience. All the questions needed in one of these 5 categories. Your average score for all 5 indexes are outlined in the far left column. And your scores compared to the average scores of all these comparison districts is on the far right. So here's your individual analysis, just like the student report. So we have a leadership and communication question to lead off. We ask them, do you feel the administration is doing what it takes to make our district successful? 78% gave the district a 4 or a 5, for an average score of 3.63, which is 0.19 below the average score of others. There was a specific school board question in the survey. The school board is what it takes to make our district successful. 3 out of 4 parents gave you a 4 or a 5, for an average score of 3.55, 9/100ths lower than the average score of others. And then what was the direction of the district? 2/3 gave you a 4 or 5, for a lower score of 3.36, which is a bit of a gap between that and the average score. So now we can dig into some more specific questions. How would you rate the communication of the district? Communication has been a hot topic across all of our accounts because I think parents were so used to the data communication that we had to provide them. Down in Slinger, we did something called COVID. I don't know if you had that in Tom, but we had to live through the COVID era. And they were getting daily emails, infection rates, quarantining, contact tracing. And I think post-COVID, they got so used to all this communication that was hard to sustain and maintain. It was nice to see that 67% of your parents rated communication as good or great. We also asked the question, how would you like to be communicated with? How would you like to receive full information? No surprise, an email is most convenient for busy families. The phone calls and automated text. And then to a lesser extent, meetings, website, and so on. We ask this question because we've all put a lot of time, resource, and energy into communication, and this tells you what kind of communication your parents want, and to a lesser extent, what experience make ours is important. I know a lot of districts put a lot of energy into Twitter. Well, Tomahawk parents are not paying much attention to Twitter. Some districts that heavily rely on the newspaper. Your parents are not getting the newspaper much for time of month. So that puts more pressure on regular emails and quite honestly district newsletters, things of that. So here's what your parents give you feedback on as far as their school experience. School facilities are clean and well kept. Very strong. We are just talking about summer cleaning earlier, so that's a sport for custodians. I know how to support my child's learning. My child feels safe in school. Again, highest to lowest will be reported. School staff treat my child with dignity and respect. My child makes school and treated fairly. I feel welcome in my child's school. School teaches with materials that reflect my family's cultural and racial backgrounds. Right at the average. Overall, my child is my family emotional challenge in school. Student mental health is a big concern among school districts and their parents. I have at least one school staff member who will contact me when I have an idea or concern. The school has high expectations for my child. Most days my child enjoys going to school. I'm satisfied with how much my child learned this year. My child can get help when they need it. School communication is both timely and transparent. I'm updated on how my child is doing. I have opportunities to provide feedback to the school, to the teachers. The school provides opportunities for parent involvement. And a score that jumped out to Wendell and I was the results. There's a healthy culture at our school. 66% gave it 4 or 5, and then dropped all the way to 3.32. And again, the reason we have that comparison average is to see where there's a significant gap. There's quite a gap, being over half a point over the comparison of other schools like Tonopah. That jumped out at me. And sometimes when we look at these results, we try to look at what elements from one survey maybe crosses over to the other survey. The students talked about bullying and behaviors of other students. Parents are hearing things about the environment, the culture at school, maybe some things there. So look at. And I'm satisfied with the school's efforts to address bullying. Again, staying on the same vein, there seems to be some crossover between the student and the parent survey in some areas. We do ask parents, how do you feel about the amount of work that's coming home? 69% they felt it just right, 14% too little, 7% too much. We also asked the question, this is an area that I feel strongly about as a former school administrator, is does your child currently participate in school-related activities, not just sports? It could be debate, it could be student council. I strongly feel that students, not every student comes to school just to learn, they just want to be involved, whether it's tech ed, robotics, Skills USA, and it's nice to see that 77% of your families are reporting that their children are engaged in something after the end of the day bell. We also asked a question about whether they have access to reliable internet from NBC. It's like an odd question. But we do a lot of surveys in North Dakota, South Dakota, and some districts don't have parents that can access the internet. And that's important to know, because then teachers need to limit the assignments that need to be done online at night. I did district where only 60% of them had access to the internet where they live. And so that changes the mode of instruction teachers would be asking kids with their homework. And then our closing question on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely would you be to recommend our school to a friend or family member? Scores much higher here than the student report. Average score of 6.79 for Tomahawk. The comparison average is 7.44. What was nice to see is the percent that were 8, 9, and 10. You had 17% that just didn't have an opinion, which again, some people tend to gravitate towards that middle because it's safe there. But there's some good satisfaction numbers there. And then again, we did a top 5 and a lower 5. Parents are feeling good about safety, cleanliness, learning support, respect, being treated fairly. Nice to see. But again, as I highlighted a bit earlier, there seems to be some culture and student behavior bullying concern. They're also looking for maybe some more opportunities for involvement and opportunities to provide feedback, which, by doing this survey, is one answer to that. You've given them a voice, and it would be important for them to know that you've taken their feedback and will be addressed. I would suspect if you do this on an annual basis, which is what most of our clients and educational partners do, that's where we'd improve because they're seeing that you're reaching out and wanting to hear from the parents. Any questions about the parents?
Any questions? I just have one. Do you have any thoughts on, I know at the beginning you gave the percent of participation. Do you have any thoughts on why some students and some parents don't participate?
That's a challenging question to answer. I think it could be a variety of things. It could be pace of life. In some districts, it may be a reflection on whether they feel like the district's going to really take the survey seriously and do anything with it. They may be lacking engagement. We tend to see those numbers rise when they, one way or another, hear the results. So let's say one puts out a newsletter to the parents saying, we processed the results, these are the areas for improvement that we're going to be addressing. I fully believe that you'll see greater participation once they see, oh my God, they're actually going to do something with the results. We as a society are very good at getting surveys. We're not so good at reporting the survey results back to our people. They kind of tend to go into this abyss or into a vacuum and are never from again. So I think there's some mistrust of surveys or lack of believing that they really need anything. So I think that would be my take on it.
Okay.
Students saying, well, what are they? Why are they asking this question? And I think if administration and teachers come back and say, hey, this is a renewed point of emphasis this year because we took the survey and we heard we have some concerns about behavior, and we're going to start throwing up some things. I think that sends a message to students that you're taking their feedback seriously, you're listening to them. And I can see those numbers rising. We do this again, which again, our clients often say, should we do this every 6 months? How often should we do it? I would discourage you from doing it more than once a year. I did an accounting Colorado days where admin, you want to do it every 6 months. I don't think 6 months, we could do it for you, but I wouldn't feel good about that because that's not enough time to make meaningful change. I think summer's the next time to make plans to address some of these areas. And then you can survey again next April and see if you move the needle on some of those areas. But I can't stress enough, don't lose sight of your strength. You know, that's why we highlight that. There's some great things happening in town, so don't let those drop while you're addressing forward things. Make sure that these are protected and maintained as you lay out budgets and make staffing priorities too.
Thank you.
So that's a good question. You weren't far from the parent average. I think parents are just busy and not inclined to take surveys at a high rate. The students were lower, and I don't know if Wendell has any thoughts on that. You know, sometimes we need to be more deliberate about setting aside time for the students. Say, okay, homeroom, you have 15 minutes, please take the survey. And so that there are some things that can be done there just to make it part of the academic day versus being volunteer. As we sometimes encourage with staff too, have a staff meeting at the end of the day, maybe let them go 15 minutes early and say, go back to your desk, give us feedback on how you do because we care about you, we want to know how you're feeling. That tends to increase rates. Any other questions about the parent survey?
No?
Okay, so with that, let's talk about the staff. This is one where 71% of your staff took the survey, and our company average is 70%. So you're right there. So that was nice. Right, 125 employees take the survey. And this was the distribution of where they work. Very evenly distributed, very much, probably almost identical to the ratio of staff per building. And this were their goals. 48% of classroom teachers, 11% educational specialists, so the counselors, reading specialists, 21% paraprofessionals, and 9% food service, transportation, custodian. And we really pride ourselves on the anonymity of our survey, so people could be honest with the survey. Any employee group that was less than 5, we are not able to report that out. We can't report the data because you get 5 or less, and maybe the person would be identified by the smallness of their job category. We want them to feel confident to protect their identity. Very nice to see how experienced and loyal employees are to Salton. Many of the reports I've been of this nature, they're far below that 10 years or more of 38%. This is a nice experience distribution. Not all young kids, and not all folks that are just towards the end of their career. Really nice distribution of experience. The indexes, just like the parents, 1 through 5. And your employee indexes were right at the national averages on all of these indexes. That they're feeling about the academics they're being provided to students. They're feeling about how they're engaged at school, how they're supported at school, the experience the students are having, and the experience they're reporting that they are having. All of them are right there within a few hundredths of the national average, and in the case of their engagement score, above the average. So let's look at some of the individual items. Their workday. Very nice to see that they feel strongly about their relationship with their coworkers. That makes coming to work more enjoyable every day. We're in a tech era. Your employees are very happy with the technology that is provided to them. Above the comparison average, 4.18, when the average score is 4.06. And this is one area that some districts overlook. They give their employees all kinds of devices, but I've had some districts get clobbered on the support that comes with the technology. And they may have a device, but they don't know how to run it. They don't even help them. Another area where you score very strong is supporting those devices and modalities. Feeling safe at work. Materials and supplies, I need to do my job well. I recently had a district where that was scored at 40th percentile. And so they had no idea. They said we just got to address the grade level department budgets because they didn't realize they didn't have enough stuff to do their job. Most days I look forward to going to work. I feel comfortable sharing my input and concerns with my supervisor and administrator. The amount of work I have to do is reasonable to manage that district. How about their working environment and what they're seeing? Our staff does a good job of educating our students. Very strong score, nice to see. All students at our school are respected for their values and beliefs. I have training and professional development to improve my work. Information important to my work is shared with me in a timely, efficient manner. An area of strength, look at how far you are above the average score. In the last year, I received feedback, useful feedback to improve my work. This was something that I was particularly proud of for Wendell and his administrative team because it's a lot of work. One teacher to teacher doing all those flashing observations and things of that nature, and your staff are saying that the feedback is helpful because you're scoring above the average on that. Some districts, that feedback is deemed worthless and they don't score nearly as well as common. Staff input is valued, again, above the average. Now, some other areas. Our staff handles student discipline and consistent management. Below that average and below 50% getting a 4 and 5. And our school student discipline practice policies are effective. This is where I point out to you a bit of a triangulation. I think there's data within this report, within the parent report, and within the student report that all relates to each other. And that's behaviors amongst the students. And how they're handled by the staff. Support scores. I feel supported by my supervisor administrator. Very nice to see. And not something you should assume is a given. There are many districts that I'm working with right now where they don't feel like administration has their back at all and that they're fending for themselves. Our school supports students with diverse backgrounds, and they've never been more diverse. Look at how favorable your staff are reporting that. All students in our school are given equal opportunities to learn and experience success, regardless of disability, things of that nature. Again, above the average. District administration is doing what it takes to make our district successful. The school board is doing what it takes to make the district successful. Your staff is feeling very good about what the decisions you're making to provide them an optimal set. Our school has a process to ensure every student has a connection with at least one adult. The district is headed in the right direction. Again, above the average score compared to other districts. That's why that far right column is so important. If you just see the scores in isolation, you don't know how you're doing. They say, oh, 3.5 to 50. Well, you're well above. You're well above other districts. I've trained and supported for students with different backgrounds. I'm recognized when I do a good job. Our parents and community support the district. There's where the significant gap between the local score and the average score. The district seeks input from about staff members. The district's pay practices are fair. Now, again, that's another one that's very important to look at the constants. 54% gave it a 4 or a 5 for an average of only 3.11. But that's above the average compared to other districts. The social and emotional all students are being met. That one really jumped up to me as well. Only 41%, but again, look at the side-by-side scores compared to the average. 4 tenths below what other districts have for an average score. And then we talked about their assessment of whether the school provides equitable opportunities for kids regardless of gender, race, economic standing, cultural background, and disability. All scores really something to be proud of. Staff feel like regardless of who you are supported in your learning at the top of our school. So when it comes to on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend the district as a place of employment? Your average score, 7.21, well above the average score of 6.8, and a remarkable number in the 10s, 9s, 8s, and 7s. Also noteworthy, look at how few are in the 0, 1, 2, or 3 group. So, top 5 scores. relationships, doing a good job educating students, technology support, technology access, and administrative support. 5 areas of concern: discipline, social and emotional needs of students, policies, practices within discipline, pay practices, and seeking input from a broad group. Any questions or comments about your staff data?
Any questions? No?
Okay. So again, I think the key now moving forward is what are you going to do with these results? And again, that's where you as a board and the district leadership team will have to talk about results now that you've seen them. I talked to Wendell about this down the line. Some districts ask us to come back and report our findings to staff. We can always do that. This PowerPoint is yours, though. All this data is yours. And use it any way you want. Please share it in any manner that you feel is most appropriate, and let us know how we can support you in any way down the line. Whether it's reporting this to different groups, or just circling back in a year and taking another look at things and seeing if whether you've been able to improve some areas that you're targeting and protect the areas that are seen as strong.
I have a question. Darren, was this
Yeah.
strictly scores or was there any comments? Could anybody make comments?
We do. We have all of the comments made by all 3 groups in our database, and that is something that you will need to give Wendell and I some direction on. There's several ways we can address the comments. Now, I'm going to be really candid with you. The reason we didn't look at the comments tonight is because we as a company have a philosophy. You really should look at the data first, because when you look at the comments, invariably there's 2 or 3 comments in there that are so personal and so toxic that influence the hundreds and hundreds of data points here that you can act upon because somebody with keyboard muscle, email muscle, wanted to take a shot. I learned that the hard way in my time at Slinger because because it's anonymous, they can see whatever they wanted, and it's have a punch in the gut to read those candid comments. Now, I can give all the school board members access to all the comments if that's what you direct Wendell to have me do. And you can read every one of them if you want. Another option we have is we can do for you a comment theme analysis report. And that would be where we analyze the most common comments amongst the students, the most common comments amongst the parents, and the most common comments amongst the staff, and summarize them into 10 to 12 themes so that you don't get bogged down into all the extreme opinions on one end of the spectrum or the other, but still have an idea about what people were saying to you within the comment. But we always have the data because the data gives you such a good summary of their feelings across all the hundreds of responses. If you want the comments, I can absolutely give it to you in one of those 2 ways. All of them, or I can do a theme report for you in the next couple of days. That would be something you as a board would maybe want to discuss. You can do it if you want to discuss it with me right now, or if you want to talk about it and have one get back to me, whatever.
Yeah, I think we're actually going to meet tomorrow. I think that might be, take a few minutes and discuss that tomorrow, what we want to do, rather than try to work it out now. But I think that'd be a good discussion. It's what we want to do. Any other questions? Thank you very much. It's very interesting data.
Great. Thank you for your time tonight, and we look forward to talking to you in the future. Again, anything I can do to support you, I look forward to hearing from Wendell and what you decide about the comments. So have a great night, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Darren.
Good night.
So before we move on from that too, just to add and follow up on what we discussed in the workshop today, this type of information is what fuels some of the data points in our scorecards, and then we build some of the goals around. So this is the first time that we have done a survey like this since I believe 2018. So it's been a long time since we've done it. There are pieces right now in our strategic scorecards that are out there that indicate this is a baseline gathering year for us because we don't have the data from previous years. So there's a couple of areas in there that inevitably will be goals, such as participation rates. You saw some of them were low, some of them were at the company average, but what things can we do to make sure that goes up? And then you saw some of the themes that were outlined in that too, as far as what our students are saying their needs are, what our families are saying their needs are, and weighing that too against the percentages that we see there. But also some really good information for our building leadership teams, us as an admin team, as we start to build some goals around that. So what we'll start to do is build longitudinal data like he indicated. So we'll go through this again and again, each year roughly at the same time, so that we can analyze and use it as one of the gauges.
Sure.
Where we stand.
I
So
wonder what, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. That was pretty much all.
I was wondering if I was thinking, would this be of value to put that information we just saw on the school's website, so people could actually see those numbers if they wanted to?
Yeah.
I think that would be of value.
Top 5 only.
The top 5.
Top 5, yeah.
Yeah.
Top 5 only in each category.
Why? Why not just put the whole
Because
PowerPoint
I'm not
up
sure the
there?
rest would be understandable.
Oh, are you serious? I thought you
I thought it was pretty.
I put the whole thing there.
I would put everything
I
on
think the
there.
whole thing, I would just be
Absolutely.
transparent.
We have nothing
put
to
the whole thing
hide.
out there.
Yeah.
If somebody has a question, well,
Right.
Okay, next up is the SEL committee update. I believe we have a guest presenter, Wendy?
We do. So we've been updating the board on our process, and Teresa and I have given updates, and the board members on the committee have given a couple updates. And you had asked, and we thought it would be good to have another committee member that wasn't necessarily connected with the school. So Amanda McMeekin is a member of our committee. She's got 2 students, elementary and middle school student, and she agreed to come talk about her experience being part of the committee and about the process, and just share her perspectives on it. So Amanda, you go ahead. Thank you for coming.
Well, I'd like to thank Teresa and Wendy for organizing the committee. I think it was really important for this type of curriculum to have community input. Honestly, I guess one of my criticisms of the whole intro to the process was not even understanding that the school is already doing this. So when I first heard about it, I was concerned about what it all involved. You hear the horror stories in the news media of all the things that are going on, so it's really easy to make the assumption that that can happen at town. So because I was concerned, I decided I should either find out about it or, keep my mouth shut, I suppose. But I think the committee did end up being a good mix of people from the community and parents. There were the people that were concerned about implications of this curriculum as it compares to what happens in the news, all the horror stories. There were people that don't watch the news, I guess, and they have no idea that this is happening, and they just want a good curriculum to help the children, to help kids learn how to be kind. So I think all of that was good for this committee to be organized. I think there's a good varied group that could go back to community members that were asking and had questions. So I think having that many more people aware of what's going on to spread the word in the community, I think was important. I obviously think it's really important to have this curriculum. I've gone on my fair share of field trips, and there are a lot of behavioral issues in these kids. It's really sad to see how screwed up these kids are at such a young age. And in a perfect world, you wouldn't need this I think that survey kind of shows the behavioral issues. My kids have said, they can't concentrate because so-and-so's acting up and it's so distracting. So I do think that it's good to have this curriculum. I think it was really good to have involvement from a varied group, whether you were a community leader, a parent, and then also the school staff as well, because they're the ones that are gonna have to use it. So whatever option is picked, I feel that it's very important that the staff be on board, because there's nothing worse than somebody saying, here, use this, and you don't have confidence in it. So I guess, I think it was well run. I think it's a difficult committee to oversee, because you want to leave it open and have open discussions, but there's a lot of opportunity for it to derail off the tracks too, and to try to rein it back in without discrediting people's opinions is a very difficult thing. So I think it was well run, and it was valuable, and I appreciate the opportunity to have been able to participate on the committee. But I think it's very important for everyone with the school to understand communication is so important. And if you're not presenting the material properly, or, like I said, I had no idea this was happening. I have 2 kids, one's in 7th grade already, and I didn't know that, I knew there were colors, like, oh, you got a green today, good job, buddy, but I didn't know that was social and emotional learning. So I think there should be some more communication for the school to the parents, maybe just even the community, that even when you're introducing any types of new things, to have all the details pretty clear, and even the background on it is helpful, because I think that's probably where a lot of the negativity for this SEL came about, was that the details were very vague at the beginning of, we're introducing this, and it seems like I probably should have known about it. I'm not the perfect parent, but I feel like I'm fairly involved, so that would be my only criticism, and I think recommendation for the school and school board as a whole is to really focus on how you're communicating information to the public.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions for Amanda? I just want to thank you. I was the one who requested a community member make a presentation, if possible, so I appreciate you coming in and telling us about your experience, and I think I can speak for the full board that we realize, yes, communication, you cannot communicate enough. That communication is very important, and we talk about it quite a bit, is how can we improve our communication with the community, with parents, students, staff, whatever. But again, thank you very much for coming in. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
No, thank you for coming in, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, staff reports. Guy?
With the elementary school, it seems like, well, we know school is out for the summer, but we still have a volume of students coming in. I mentioned in my report summer school, just wanted to give you an update. Megan Barker's done an outstanding job preparing a program that builds in academic and fun. As of, this last week when I did this report, we had 283 students attending. And it'll finish up on the 22nd. And like I said, she's done an outstanding job getting a program together for both the elementary and middle school. I can really appreciate the work that Arlen and his staff puts in during the summer. I see it directly now as we prepare a space for Linda Van Stridonk and kind of realigned our office environment a bit. But Arlen has been down there, his staff is doing a great job as always. And then I must have been happy when I did the report that we were fully staffed at the elementary level. So I wouldn't probably normally put that down, but with Kelly taking the LMC position, I was probably pretty relieved to have a fourth grade teacher in place and be fully staffed.
Great. Any questions? Thank you. Basically, middle school?
I switched it up, I went back here today.
Okay.
All right, so just a couple things I'll highlight off of my report. First of all, with our building leadership team, we met for the last time this year, actually the second to last day of school. And we came up with a structure of what team time is gonna look like for all the grade levels next year, because reducing our time from like 37 minutes to 21, we had to kind of come up with a framework of how that was gonna look for each grade level. And we wanted that in place so that when teams met over the summer in their grade level meetings, they would be able to kind of formulate their calendars. So that was kind of the one last thing that we got done with our building leadership team before we left for the summer. And then 2 updates for you guys, just kind of recapping 2 of the things I touched on in May. We had a last day celebration for the middle school. So Mrs. Derland, like I wrote in here, a huge shout out goes to her. She organized a ton of this through our PBIS program, and we had a kickball tournament, we did slushies and popcorn, and we did a dunk tank, and unfortunately, it got rained out before I could go in, but Wendell happened to be the last one in when the dunk tank, we had to call it because it got a little sketchy.
And our
But,
pitching program for our school moving forward is in good hands, because I think only about 3 kids missed.
That's because it was also like downpouring at that point, and it was not good. But we got everything donated, and with all the stuff that we did at the last day, the middle school from this part was able to do over $1,000 to the Tomahawk Dream Park. The kids voted. We put up 3 organizations, and we had the students vote on where they wanted to see the money raised go, and that's where they voted for it to go. And then Tammy Hall is also donating $2,000 from Student Council. So all told, the middle school is going to be donating over $3,000 to the Tomahawk Dream Park. So we're going to be getting those checks cut and doing a check presentation sometime here soon, but it was an awesome thing. It was really cool. The students got to have a voice of where it went, and it was a fun thing, so it all kind of came together. And then last thing, the greenhouse sale. That sale, we had a lot of staff members come in, family members, community members that came in, and that project raised over $1,000 as well, and that'll be put back into that account to be able to do that project again next year. So it was good.
For the presentation of those 2 checks, 1,000 and 2,000, are we gonna get a photo op that can go in the paper?
Yep, we're working on that.
Okay.
I'm gonna have, Sandy's gotta cut the checks, I'm gonna try to have both Shirley and Tammy come in to do the check presentations, and we can coordinate everybody's schedules. And
Okay.
get that done.
Be good,
Yeah.
good for the,
Yep.
get it in the paper. Okay, any questions?
Stacy, what happens at team time?
So it's a mix, so we have, that's one of the times we do our SEL lessons. So like
Okay.
right now in second semester, like a couple times, we do that on Mondays. One of the days is a PBIS lesson on Mondays, and then we do like, each grade level has different things. So there's, sometimes it's intervention time, sometimes it's study hall time, sometimes it's choices time. Sometimes we're gonna try to look at doing some next year, we don't ever really do anything that's whole building level wide. So we were looking at one of the Mondays doing like a whole middle school or like grade level challenge and trying to get some camaraderie between 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, doing some things like that. It's makeup times for things for like the kids who make up by ed or band lessons, choir, things like that. They can do that. I'm trying to think what's all. It's like a whole matrix on this thing.
Is it at the end of the day?
It's at the end of the day.
Very end of the
The
day.
very end of the day. So it used to be like, I want to say it was like 34, 37 minutes long, but now it's going down to 21, and like teaming up with the high school schedule, so we all line up. So it's a chunk of time that we're blocking off, but that time is also going back into academic time, which is positive too, which has been good. We have like meetings, like we have student council meetings and junior Bob and like those kinds of meetings during that time too. So it's usually something different every day. But we came up with like a monthly kind of framework calendar so that when grade levels are doing their planning over the summer, they can start slotting in things that they want to put in.
Okay.
get ahead of the game a little bit.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. High school?
Sure, I'll go first. I'd like to highlight a couple of things under the whole student pillar of the strategic plan. Both revolve around Link Crew. Again, Link Crew is our transitional program for freshmen. We have 11th and 12th graders who apply and are selected, and they mentor on board during our orientation on the first day of school. It's also a year-long program, so there are things that happen throughout the year too. So one of the things that I wanted to highlight was our end of the year celebration with our senior Link leaders. We had 12 of them this year, and they were with us for both junior and senior year. Phenomenal, remarkable. They mentored the incoming juniors. They were fantastic with our freshmen. We'll miss them dearly. So wish them well. So that was very fun to get everybody together and say farewell to them. Secondly, we did our application program, our application process, and we have 24 Link leaders coming on for next year. I think 11 of them will be returning, so they'll be their seniors. The rest will be juniors. So we had our spring development day, so we get them all together, and we start developing that leadership mentality with now the new group, and talk about the importance, the responsibility, the impact that they are going to have on our incoming freshmen next year. And push out some dates, some really important dates. We have summer work, we have 2 training dates that are 5 hours, and then we have another refresher day the day before the first day of freshmen. So it's very intensive. They do great work, and we're so grateful and thankful to have them. So, questions on that?
Any questions? Thank you, Sharon.
A few things that I wanted to highlight on the board report. The first was under the teaching, learning, and relevance pillar, where you saw that our high school staff did their annual accreditation certification program with our technical college partners at Nicolet in order to teach all of our dual credit classes. So the reason why that's so important is that's one of our measures of post-high school readiness, is students being able to have opportunities to take rigorous classes and potentially earn college credits in those different areas. So part of that is our high school staff needing to be able to be certified to not only understand the curriculum, but teach it in a manner that meets the rigor levels required for the technical college. So that's, obviously that relationship is ongoing throughout the entire school year, but annually now they're looking at all their new courses for next year, meeting with those new staff members, determining any other work that they might need to do. So that's a significant day for that core group of teachers that are working within those programs. So that was a very successful day, like always, and that partnership with Nicolet has been excellent. So we always appreciate that on behalf of our students. Another item that I wanted to point out was dealing with going into at the end of the school year was some of those community partnerships we have. And again, our town hall community, you'll see, was very supportive of our graduating class with over $158,000 of local scholarship money went to our senior class. Obviously, there's money from outside of our community that goes to those students as well, but that's a pretty significant number coming from both business and individual families, that want to support our youth going into their post-high school plans. So definitely a congratulations to Michelle Wilder, our scholarship coordinator, and then working very closely with her, our guidance department of Jen Bolmier and Dan Ryder. But really thank you to our community and continue to support our students, but even after they leave us, they want to see them be successful in that financial piece. We've talked about often, obviously, the Senior Service Project Day, another huge success. I think maybe just one of those things, not to, beat the drum too much, but there's always those couple of seniors that are a little bit leery to go out and do that because they're uncomfortable for whatever reason. It's maybe interacting with people they normally wouldn't interact with, maybe a little bit of fear with some adults in the community member. And so we're fortunate to be able to travel between the different groups throughout the day and kind of see some of those students that would normally lay in the weeds, and you see them in the morning and they're a little bit tentative, and by lunchtime they're right in there with everybody else. And at the end of the day, you try to go and try to make a connection with those kids and just ask them about their experience. And it never fails that those students have something positive to say about the day of working with the community. So everybody sees it differently, but some that we really like to see are those outliers that are a little bit uncomfortable by that kind of an environment. So it never fails every year. The last thing was, actually second to last, was thank you again to all of our community and school participants in the graduation ceremony for our families. And one of the big things that we continue to tell our senior class every year is not only is this a celebration for you as individuals, but this is a huge community event. And one of the things we always promote to them is that there are people within our community that don't even know you, that are proud of you and happy for you and are going to talk to you about it throughout the days. And so not every community has that. And I think our kids saw that this school year as well, with a couple of them following us. We just ran into them over the weekend when I ran into them around town. But that's one of those things. Just thank you to everybody for their support with that. Lastly was the staffing item for the high school. We have our one remaining position in social studies that we're currently in the process of interviewing and filling. So our goal will be to hopefully have an offer made by the end of this week to a candidate. That's our goal.
Great. Any
Right.
questions?
I have one, on the dual credit courses, how frequently do they have to get certified?
It's required that they meet with the technical college yearly, but I can tell you that they're often even speaking with their university colleague or technical college colleague weekly, bi-weekly, just checking in on things. So, but the annual meeting is a requirement where they do some of the formalized paperwork and training.
Okay. Is there a fee involved for them, or?
No, that's
Okay.
one of the benefits of dual credit is
Right.
that it's
I
at
knew
no
for
cost to
the
the
students,
students,
yeah.
no cost to the district.
Mhm.
It's a great program.
It's a great
for
program,
all.
absolutely. Thank you.
Yep.
How many dual credit classes do we offer?
I'm gonna be wrong, but it's in the 30s.
And how many staff total that do dual credit?
Dual, I should back up. I think courses where students earn college credits were in the 30s. I remember there's different breakups with
Right.
Project Lead the Way, dual credit specifically. Dual credit's gonna be in the 20s for sure. And I would say that probably the core group of dual credit is going to be your career and technical education educators, so 5. And the reason why that is, when you go outside of the technical areas, there's an additional requirement to certify because of the college transfer program. So when you're talking math, ELA, science, social studies, those humanities courses, you also need to have a master's degree in the contact area, and that's the higher ed board that has that requirement that oversees all universities. So there's more hoops with that. We've had people in the past that have had those credentials that were able to teach you credit, and we're still working with staff members, especially our young staff members, that might be pursuing continued education and earning a master's degree and talking to them about the benefits of that for them, as well as for our district students. And there's some programs out there that can even financially support those people that we're trying to connect them with. So trying to grow that area of it.
Lastly, Goldilocks and the Three Pigs. Probably the best production I've ever seen in Tomahawk. It was amazing. The kids did such a wonderful job.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's one of those things where the children's play at the end of the year for the drama department, I know, is always kind of exciting for them because they tend to put people in roles they normally wouldn't have had. We have some students that are generally stage crew members now taking acting roles, so I know they have a lot of fun with that production as well.
That was good.
Brian, I have one question for you. So, and I am thrilled to death with our partnership with the area technical schools. As you know, I have some real passion around hands-on work for our graduates and people learning those skills. But I also have passion for the kids that struggle. Are we working as diligently with our area technical schools for the children who may be struggling to graduate? Alternative ed, those kinds of things with the tech schools and the programs they have?
I would probably answer it this way. Academically, a lot of our students that may tend to struggle academically and graduate, we have excellent success in our alternative ed program that we have here in-house with our program.
Okay.
That accomplishes a lot of those students that you would normally, if you didn't have that program, that you'd have to partner more directly with the technical college for graduation programs.
Okay.
I can tell you that as a part of the alt-ed program, they make a consistent effort through academic and career planning to get them on campus, to talk about post-secondary options and continued education and careers. So I would say in that route, they're definitely, technical college makes special arrangements for us to even have more detailed tours and finite things with the students that have those needs.
Just kind of one of those general questions,
Yep.
because I think,
Good question.
you know, that it's just as important. Every child is important, so.
And I think you make a great point that, you know, kind of is a way to complement our all that program. Not every district has that type of a program. And so I think we're wise, and I think it's a great use of dollars to have a program number one. But we have a very successful one with great people involved with it, that without a doubt, you see a definite change in students that are taking advantage of that program. So, good question.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thanks, Ryan. Wendy?
For my report at the end of the year, I always give like an update on trend wise on where we're at, where our numbers are for the year, the processes, and then I've been showing the data over time so you can see like where our numbers are at. So I blocked out, I added at the bottom, I'm not gonna read the numbers so you can read charts, but the parts that are blocked out is before I came in to track some of the data, so for the last 4 years, there's some information on that. We are still waiting to hear back on mental health grant and transition grant to create some opportunities for our students to do some work experience and job training out in the community and set up some partnerships with that. And then I found out today that I got a $7,000 grant from Aspirus Hospital. We're going to be doing some parent workshops and training around mental health, AODA, you know, for all the pre-expulsions we've had, we really want to hit on some of that AODA stuff, so we're going to try to do something at least quarterly, maybe a little bit more depending upon how much they cost, but so I just found out today we've got some more money for that, so we're kind of excited for that to get that parent engagement and create some opportunities for that. And then one thing I also want to give a shout out for, that I did write in here, we have a student that graduated that has significant autism and some sensory and regulation issues, and she struggled with graduation. So Mrs. Help, who's fabulous, worked with Mrs. Woodall, Mr. Huseby, and myself, and they set up, we did an individual graduation ceremony for her. She probably had 15 to 20 peers there. She invited a food service person that she was close to, and one of our custodians that she's close to, and like pomp and circumstance, she went across the stage. And you know, her parents were there, and it made her graduation just as special for her. And Mrs. Woodall gave the most amazing speech, just like you do, you know, would for everybody else. So for that family, that speech and the effort that they put into it made a big difference. So and then we had a little reception afterwards. So just the little things that not everybody sees that this staff does is pretty amazing for kids. So
Great.
Thank you. Very
I have a
good.
question, Wendy, about your charts. I just wanted to know on the child find, our child find is for screening 3-year-olds, so this year you screened 28 3-year-olds?
actually, child find is 3 to 21-year-olds, so it can be anybody, like if a doctor
So
suspects anything.
it's not just the 3-year-old find?
The most of the numbers after kindergarten, we don't really do much screening. We actually do the 3K and 4K, 3 to 5-year-olds is a primary. But the law, according to it, is 21, but ours is really 3 to 5-year-old.
So I was just looking at the numbers, I was like
So we
28,
screen 28, yes.
but not 3-year-olds, you're talking
3 and 4-year-olds.
3 and 4-year-olds. So out of that, we have 13.
14 of them, they do the ages and stages, and 14 of those were referred for an initial evaluation, and of those 14, 13 out of the 14 qualified.
3 and 4-year-olds, 13 qualifying.
Yes.
Is that typical? I mean, that seems like, what are the numbers like in the 4K right now? So that would be like, what
It's similar.
percentage of the class?
It's similar to our trends for the last couple of years.
Okay.
I'd have to pull up the caseloads.
I just looked at that and I thought it was awfully high.
Well, we do it once a month, so we're finding more kids rather than like once or twice a year. So once a month, we're the doctors, we get some from daycares, we get some from doctors, we get some from parents, teachers that refer, we do those screenings. So we're doing it more frequently so that we can identify more. And then, like if you look at the numbers, they're referred, so the 14 and the 13, if they qualify, because you know it's a criteria that they have to meet, that means we're getting good referrals. If it was like only 7 out of 14 that you evaluated for qualifying, then your referrals would actually go to special, you know, to that process and go to referrals.
I know I was talking to Teresa earlier, like in 2016-17, it says there was 15 screened.
Yes.
where are you getting, is that something that your office has kept, those
Yes.
numbers?
Yes.
Because we did a big screening that year with Green Hack.
Yep.
And they came up and did a team, and we must have did, I don't know, 60 or 70 kids that year. So I was looking at those numbers and thinking, because before that, we did those big screenings.
Well, those numbers would be from Catherine and Mitch before me and their files.
Yeah,
that
well.
Tracy keeps, and those are the screening numbers that they have for their child plan. So I can't speak to those because I wasn't here, but that's the data that the district has.
Okay.
And then Tracy's kept that consistently as well. So,
But not the other referred and eligible.
no, they didn't keep track of that.
Any other questions?
Not any files that I found. And Tracy and I got the referrals, so. And I thought it was important that we be tracking that, so we see if we're making good referrals in our district.
Absolutely.
So since I've been here, we've tracked it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Trace?
All right, two big themes across the report, no matter the pillar, is the end of the year, look at the data, and then building out the plan. So we did our planning with St. Mary's, looking at what their services will look like and how they wanted to refer their students to services. Then we built out our Title I plan. We had, thank you to Tammy Yonker, who was our parent volunteer for that. And then the data was also shared out by grade level across the elementary and the middle school. And we identified our highest priority grades for services internally for next year, as well as based on our data and looking at our lowest elementary and literacy has our greatest needs. So looking at that, we had to start to pivot towards what some of those strategies will be. And today, we actually started a leadership and literacy training that will go on throughout next year, but we had a team that started that today, so Guy was there and Mark was there, so he could start the process with the team, and then our reading specialist, and then we had 2 building leadership representatives, and that will be the base to the elementary building out a literacy team for study. So when we go to curriculum adoption, we've got that literacy team that's in-house, that's broader than just those people going to that literacy and leadership training now. You also saw throughout that we're starting planning for PD. So you saw that there were some teachers attending CPM training this summer, and that will be in August in Eau Claire. And that was to support that strategy that is for numeracy and around co-teaching. So we have both special ed and general ed math teachers attending that, so that's awesome. And then you see that we are already starting to plan as an admin team, professional development for August when we come back, including our new teacher training. And you heard Wendell say we have quite a few new teachers, so that'll be a very important. One thing that we'll include in that new teacher orientation is that MLSS playbook that Wendy and I have been working on under Pillar 2. So showing teachers all the initiatives that we have and the strategies that we have laid out in the strategic plan is encompassed in that playbook with the rationale, the research, the description, and then the implementation. So that'll be really nice in pulling that together and onboarding new staff with that information. All right, thanks.
Any
Last
questions?
one.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Teresa.
thank you. Okay, the DPI report? Guy?
AGR report.
Yeah.
It's Achievement Gap Reduction Grant. We are in the second year of a 5-year grant. And I recently got an email that our allocation amount was going to be adjusted slightly to the positive. So right now I know our allocation for this year, and the allocation can vary year to year, is $376,600. So I expect it to go up slightly. Part of the grant is reporting, so I gave a report in February in the 2 areas that we report on are reading and math, and kindergarten through 3rd grade. So those teams meet, they give me their information, they set a goal based on their baseline in the fall. They do a mid-year check, which is what I reported back in February. If you remember that report in February, I mentioned that there's some work that we needed to do. In the area of math, we were pretty good within that area. there was some work that we needed to do with our reading instruction. We did make some slight improvements in that area if you looked at our data with the report that I provided, but there's the positive that came out of it is that our early grades, kindergarten and first grade, recognize that we need to do some studying and some improvement with our phonics instruction. So that's work that they're aware of, so they'll do that work with the help of the interventionist. I feel like with the math instruction, Teresa and I talked about this, that may be a little bit ahead. We adopted a Prontis and Pinnell literacy series for our K through 3, recognizing that we need some consistency in our instruction across those grade levels. So we're hopeful that by looking at that series and getting consistent with that instruction, and then recognizing that they need a little bit more support with their phonics, that we'll see some continued improvement, and that's really the goal. So that's the work that we're, the teams, it was nice to see that they looked at it as a team, from a team perspective, recognized the work that they want to do and the areas that they want to improve on going into next year. So that's all within the report, but I think we're moving in the right direction. We just need to put some more work in to get there.
What about the math side, Guy?
I think the math seemed to meet the goal more consistently, but they've had that resource. They've been more consistent. They've had a resource that, that was put into place my first year. They've been able to develop the support around it. I just think that they're a little further ahead with their instruction in that area. But that kind of points the way to what we need to do with our reading instruction.
I was just looking at the kindergarten, identify the numbers 1 through 20, 50%. 57% of the kids at the end of the year could do that. To me, because our math program focuses like completely on that. So I was really shocked to see a 50% and 65 can write the numbers 1 to 20. To me, that's concerning. That's very concerning. I think that's really.
May I know I'm not supposed to say anything.
No.
No, that's not correct, Dan. You look at the last column. Sorry, not supposed to say
Okay,
anything.
I see what you mean. Okay. So that was mid-year.
I put that
83, it
in,
went
so
up.
I know it's not
Okay, thank
correct.
you, thank you,
Sorry.
thank you. I was looking at the wrong one, so 83 and 85. Okay. Okay.
Like, no, that's.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. Yeah. All right, sorry. I apologize.
Okay,
Any
Sorry.
other questions?
thanks, Guy.
All right, thank you.
Okay, the next agenda item, we have one addition to the early graduation list for January 2024. So I'd entertain a motion to approve that addition to the early graduation list.
I so move. Long second.
Motion to second to approve the adjustment to the early graduation list. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And then the next agenda item is to approve an adjustment to lifeguard pay beginning the summer of 2023. Any comments on that, Wendell? or-
Just what I had
Everybody's got what they.
listed in the packet there, yeah. It was just a mistake between the information that I was supplied on the sheet versus what was currently being paid. So I adjusted that in this and brought forth a different recommendation.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to approve that adjustment.
I so move, Baloo.
Second.
Swente, second.
Motion is second to approve the adjustment to the lifeguard pay beginning summer 2023. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Traffic flow project update. Who's going to do that?
I can start, and if any of the committee members want to hop in, feel free. We had our listening sessions earlier this month. There were some concerns with that initial proposal that we put out there, primarily in terms of road construction, traffic out once you leave our footprint of our district, as well as maybe some safety concerns on where that entry point would be located. I know many of you attended, so I won't elaborate too much on those, but we did come back, brought that information back to committee, had a pretty thorough discussion on where we were and brought some of those other concepts that were put forth by Point of Beginnings and had them, we had discussion around them and had Point of Beginnings work some numbers and some different things on what we had available to us. So we don't have a recommendation to bring anything out of committee at this point to the full board, but we do have Point of Beginnings working on a couple of other things and costing, putting some cost estimates to those recommendations as well. So July meeting, I should have some of those other options a little further developed. We'll have another committee meeting and see what the committee approves to bring to the
Are
board,
they
if
still
anything.
looking at a relative same time frame that was discussed before? Or will that have to adjust?
The time frame will adjust, I think, until we can get something, yeah, that we feel is accomplishes the safety goals that we have put forth with this versus the cost of the project. And I think what we're finding right now is, you know, the more we explore other options, the further we get into the camp of traffic flow and less safety. Point of Beginnings has some concerns on that as well, and they've been very honest in saying, if we want to do a traffic flow concept for you, let's do that, but I don't want to market that as a school safety initiative because then they've got their name on it as well. So that's kind of what we've been looking at, is that balance. What do we have that separates bus traffic from vehicle traffic completely, in all aspects on our footprint, and is it cost effective compared to what that initial proposal was? So I don't know that even in July we'll have something ready to come out of committee, but we will continue to work through that process and bring something as soon as we feel like it's.
So if I'm hearing this right, we're looking at other alternatives to the original one of Kings Road. So is it going out on Kings Road off the table?
I think at this point, utilizing that plan would be off the table.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
With that, I did not attend both meetings. I attended the second one. And I guess I want to thank Wendell for putting that together. I know for some of the community that was probably difficult too, but I want to thank the community for their involvement with it. And the ideas that you presented, brought forward. You know, one of them is that I did hear was, you know, you're not listening to us. I hope that the people that are present with the Kings Road idea understand that yes, we are listening to you.
That was
And,
gonna be my question, Wendell, once we are down to whatever number of options, are we going to present them again and make that community presentation?
Yeah, once we land on an option, yeah, for sure.
So it's probably important to clarify too that the options that we're considering at this point, we're looking at, or we had discussions about last time, all are on our property and don't involve Kings Road, don't involve the addition of additional traffic flow to the rest of the community. So seeking solutions that are right here on our land.
Our focus at the current time is to keep our solution on school property. That's our current focus. I'm not saying that's the end result, I'm just saying that's our current focus. We understand there's concerns if there's other options. The committee at the last meeting reviewed an option that was not presented originally because we wanted to respond favorably, if we could, to keeping our solution on school property.
And one thing to piggyback that on too that we're trying to consider is that larger footprint. As we change traffic flow, and Shar, you alluded to this, where is it going to impact the backup in traffic or other traffic jams that are maybe a quarter of a mile off of our footprint as well? So that's what we have a much more comprehensive, I think, look at the neighborhood in general and not just our footprint, but we're trying to keep as much of it local right here to what we own as much as possible.
And, you know, we may ask the community again, Dick, for some input if we think it would be of value.
Nothing wrong with that. I think
No,
that's a good
I
idea.
think so.
Yep, and the
Okay, do we?
transparency of it with cost too, not just the location
Yeah,
where the buses
exactly.
go, but I think that's a big deal that we wanna make sure we're as transparent as possible. We've been looking at steps or projects that could be, put in place over multiple years to try to offset some of the costs, much like we do with the roofs. Instead of doing 27 roofs in 1 year, we do a few a year that we can afford to do, and we think that might be a little more, responsible on our end as well, to look at that way, so.
Okay, any other questions or comments? I appreciate the committee's work. Thank you very much. Not an easy thing to do, so I appreciate it. Okay, public comment. Any public comment this evening? Yes, sir.
My name is Dan Paragoon, I'm one of the Kings Road neighborhood group, and I've spoken to probably 10 different households who had a number of concerns with the proposal to use Kings Road. We expressed them to the superintendent, and frankly, based on your comments today, I want to say thank you for listening to us, taking into consideration some of the concerns we had, and developing alternatives to be evaluated. The initial public hearing was a little bit heated, with probably a lack of communication that maybe preceded that. But since that time, I'm very pleased with people's response, and I, as a neighbor, feel like you have listened, so I do appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other public comment? None? Okay. Next agenda item is committee appointments. I guess, is everyone comfortable with the committees that they are on now, and
Yes.
will that work for the coming year?
Sure.
Okay, so we'll maintain the same committee appointments as the previous year. Okay? And thank you for participating.
I have a question about the committees and structures, just to kind of clarify, and I suppose probably make sure that everybody understands, is that while the committees are made up of, the committee members that are regularly attend these things, the committee meetings are open to any board member who wants to attend. So,
And public.
And public, for that matter, right, of course. So, if you have questions about what we're doing with this traffic flow thing, come to one of our meetings, or, finance or policy or whatever, come to one of the meetings. Our finance meetings are quarterly, we're trying to get that.
How about an email just making me aware of more? I mean, so I'm,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just so I'm aware, and if it frees up, I'd like to learn more about it too.
Yeah.
My issue is that unless you check board book every day,
Yes.
you don't know. That's,
You don't know my capacity with this thing, do you? That's why I'm asking for some help.
So can we do that? Can we have her emails on committee meetings?
Yeah. those
To
can
the
go
whole
out to
board?
everybody.
Yeah.
The committee
Oh.
ones. We just put it out to, we put it out the same way you put out the other emails.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, next agenda item is approved contribution to Fund 46 in the amount of $600,000 to complete projects outlined on the capital projects list. Any comments or anything with that, Wendell? Or anyone else?
I would just frame it from, we did this at the end of last year too. This, obviously, the Fund 46 list is a list, and something once ESSER dollars go away that we're gonna rely heavily on. So we wanted to put a comfortable amount in there, and that has to be done by June 30th. So we're closing out the budget, and we anticipate that we've got plenty of room in there at this point. The rest of it would go in the fund balance for this year.
Keep in mind with the Fund 46, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Wendell, once the money goes into Fund 46, it cannot come back out. It has to be used, which is why we're using it that way, because we want to be very intentional about the way that we're spending money in our long-term capital projects.
Correct.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. Okay, then I would entertain a motion to approve contribution to Fund 46 in the amount of $600,000.
So move, Swante?
Second?
Kirsch.
Motion a second to approve contribution to Fund 46 in the amount of $600,000 to complete projects outlined on the capital projects list. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And next one, recommendation to committee beginning balance of $110,371.61, plus or minus any revenues and expenditures in school forest location 701 by June 30th, 2023. Any discussion there? That's
What is
something-
that location? Wendell, which one?
That one, I believe, is out
Off of 86?
no, it's the
No,
one that's out
Nokomis.
off of, in Nokomis.
In Nokomis,
Yeah,
off of
by
Prairie Rapids.
Prairie
Yeah,
Rapids,
Prairie
yeah.
Rapids, right.
Prairie Rapids.
Okay. And entertain a motion to approve that.
Long as I move.
Second?
Swente, second.
Motion is second to approve the recommendation as described. Any discussion?
Can that only be spent on the Prairie Rapids School Forest then?
On that location, yeah.
Do we have anything for our school forest over here?
We, not set aside, not earmarked for this one.
Okay.
So we've been earmarking this money for a number of years now, and we do have some facilities out there, and I think that's why it was set aside
Okay.
initially. And it's just getting that plan together to expand that a little bit and put in some permanent
Fix it up.
facilities. Yeah, which it desperately
Have you
needs.
been there?
Yeah, it needs to.
Okay, then entertain a motion to approve the recommendation.
We already did that, didn't we?
Yeah, we already-
Oh, we did? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
So we just need a vote.
We're looking for the, we got vote now.
Vote?
We've been here since 2 o'clock,
Okay,
so.
okay, yeah.
We're all a little-
Leave me alone. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next one, recommendation to commit $2,560,820 for payment of future post-employment benefits. Is that something we have to do every year?
That's, yep, annual, and that's, I outlined in the packet how we arrive at that number. That's basically an actuarial that is developed by an outside company for us and recommends how much we should keep in there, so.
Swente, so moved.
Long second.
Motion is second to approve the recommendation as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, we're getting there. Approved restricted funds for Getting Kids Ahead grant, $25,157.
So this one's a little bit different. This one, we have the money currently in our account, but we can't list it as a deferred revenue by rule or law, so we have to just commit it for the following year, so that's what we're asking to.
Okay,
It can't be spent until.
Swente, so moved.
Second. Motion is second to approve the restricted funds as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Closed session. Entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Oh, so
Board
board
referrals.
referrals.
Board referrals.
Oh, I missed that. Sorry.
That's okay.
Board referrals? Anything?
I just have,
Oh, go.
I just have a quick one. CISA 9 just completed their 22 district-wide
That's okay.
survey, and they've got the highest score they've ever gotten. So they're doing great things. So
Good.
just thought I'd mention that.
I'd like to apologize to the kindergarten teachers. They're doing a great job in math. And I'd also like to thank Paula Norman, Sam Hernandez, Keith Yancey, Charles Sheely, and Teresa Brzezinski, all that are leaving, and thank them for the service to our district.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, now we'll go
I
into
still move
closed.
we go into closed session.
Second? Motion is second, go into closed session. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Hirsch,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Baloo,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Bateman,
Yes.
Hughesby.
Yes.
Yep.
Hey,
Overruled.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Thanks, everyone.
What happens if you say no?
yeah, no.
Yeah, nothing. But at least he's got a vote.